your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was once no-scoped by an aimbotter. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I am Father Broadcaster Nickels.
Broadcaster Nickels, we have been playing the technical preview of Halo Infinite for the last 2 days. Tell me, how riveted are you? How wet is your chair from the perspiration of being the best of the best?
I've only begun to go soft in my pants as of 58 minutes past beta.
Yeah, they gave us that bonus 30 minutes. That was nice.
They did.
So what do you think? Is it the future of gaming?
No. Future of gaming is death, apparently, because everyone's afraid of coming up with new things. It's kind of crazy to think the game's good. Don't get me wrong. It's better than 4 and 5, no doubt. Mm-hmm. And it will be popular because it's free to play, for one. And two, really we all know there's a BR coming. All right, we all know, so we know it's going to be a popular one. But nonetheless, it's just like, when you really think about it, being like 30 plus and playing my first Halo was when I was 12. And I'm like, we're approaching 2 decades of Halo. And it's just like, it's kind of a representation of the gaming industry. It's just like no one is doing anything, and there's just repeat offenders everywhere. Call of Duty, Halo, getting another Devil May Cry, getting whatever it is. When's the last time a new IP came out and you're like, this is the start of a great IP? Maybe Bloodborne,
never to be heard from again.
Yeah, just get into dust. So,
yeah, I guess Demon Souls. If you're really, because Bloodborne comes from Demon Souls, so I guess I'd say Demon Souls would be one of the ones that I'd say was a great new IP that was somewhat recent. When did Demon Souls come out? Like 2010, I feel like.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
I know it was like a late PS3 era game.
This might offend, some cult members out there from the Elden Ring fan base, but
oh no, here we go.
When you see Elden Ring, it's new, but it's nothing new. It's fucking Ghost of Tsushima meets Miyazaki Demons, Blood Souls, or whatever the fuck Soulborn genre you want to call it. It's not anything new, and I don't know. The only reason I don't take too much shot at them is because every title is new. Mm-hmm. They don't stick around in one universe. No. So at least they have that going for them. But it's just, I can't give any game too much credit, I guess what I'm getting at, because they're on the fucking 6th, 7th, 8th iteration, depending on how you count, and nothing new is coming. They replaced that spike gun I fucking hate, for one. It's dumb. Give us back the Spartan laser. I demand it.
Spike gun? Which one's that?
The spike, the one that shoots the giant spike.
Oh, I was thinking of that as kind of a rocket launcher, but you're right, it was kind of more of a spike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it pretty much replaced the laser. It's like an instantaneous laser shot, but, not a laser. It has a slight curve to it, but...
Yeah.
Then there's that red plasma gun that you were bitching about. I don't like that either.
That gun's worthless.
That ricochet shotgun.
I get more kills with the default assault rifle submachine gun thing than I do with that red laser gun.
Yeah, for sure. But even like the ricochet gun, which looks super cool, you have to be camping and waiting for people just to like pretty much run by you to get an insta shot on that or insta kill on that.
Yeah.
From any distance, that gun sucks. You have to fire like 4 shots to get somebody at like 10 feet. It's crazy. And it's slow as hell. I do love what they did with the assault rifle, though. The assault rifle is the most viable it's ever been. It's actually probably the best assault rifle ever. It's like the representation. It's the embodiment of what the CE Magnum was, you know? But for the assault rifle. I feel like 10 years from now, if they're still making Halos, people are going to look back on this assault rifle just like how we look back on the Combat Evolved Magnum.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed about weapons is that the Covenant weapons seem to be absolutely worthless. All those,
yeah, they're an afterthought, kind of.
Like, well, first of all, the pistol, I have fully charged that thing. And it landed 2 fully charged shots on someone and they did not die. So what is the point of that gun? How is it going to kill anyone if 2 fully charged shots can't
just
kill
meant
someone?
to kill. It's just meant to pop shields, and then you switch to like a kinetic weapon to like kill them the rest of it. Because I noticed they've actually leaned into that more too. Because when a little hint popped up and it said plasma grenades are good against shields, whereas kinetic grenades are good against actual Spartan armor.
Yeah. Well,
so I wonder if that translates to weapons as well. Like, does an elite weapon, energy-based weapon, does that pop shields faster? And then whip out your pistol and just pop him in the head real quick, but that was usually reserved for like energy pistols back in the day. Like that charge up would just pop your shield immediately. But I wonder if there's actual like special attributes for energy versus kinetic weaponry. Period.
If that's their intention, they need to make switching weapons easier because I had so many problems switching between my 2 weapons where it would just switch to the same weapon over and over again.
Were you using the scroll wheel?
Whatever, yeah, the default. Is there a different way to do it?
Well, yeah, you can map it to whatever you want, but I found the scroll wheel to be very sensitive. I would have to literally concentrate and just barely scroll it up or down to switch to a weapon, because if you even went 2 clicks, the game didn't recognize, the move, how fast those 2 clicks were, and just counted as one. Because some games do that. Like you can do like a fast flick up, and it knows that was just one continuous scroll, so it's just going to go to the next weapon. Whereas this game does not do that. It just like 7 out of 10 times, I swear, I was just scroll and I would just pop out my weapon I just scrolled from. So.
Well, I think all FPSs should have keyboard-based weapon switching by default. I can't believe that it doesn't.
Could you not do 1, 2, 3?
No, I was trying. I kept trying to use 1, 2, 3. It wasn't doing shit. So
wow.
maybe you can set it to do that, but it isn't by default, and I think that's a joke.
Yeah. I wish I would have. I'm going to try controller tomorrow when it starts, because
get that aim assist.
I want to see how good this aim assist is.
Yeah,
because some people were doing shots with the assault rifle where every fucking bullet was hitting my head. It was crazy.
You think this is going to be just yet another FPS game with just rampant cheating?
Oh yeah, for sure. Unless they get an anti-cheat going.
How is it not? Why does it seem like in the year 2021, anti-cheat is an afterthought for all these competitive video game makers? Like, that should be the number one thing you design with the game from the ground up. Yeah.
I mean, cheating really just started to get, like, the cheats we're talking about, the universal cheats, the more covert cheats that cough cough pro streamers are getting away with using, and their fan base defends them to no end. Those cheats are universal. So it just doesn't matter anymore. The companies didn't see that coming. I don't think I think they saw, well, like, if our game's only around, like, especially for Call of Duty, I think Call of Duty really didn't see it coming, because they're like, well, fuck, we make a new game every year, so they can't, like, that's more than a full-time job to make cheats for a game every year, so it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to affect the pop too bad, but now it does, because it doesn't matter when your game comes out. Now that you have AI machine learning fucking cheats or whatever these guys are using, or even more subtle like hardware spoofing cheats and stuff like that I won't go into, but nonetheless, they're universal. You can't beat that unless you actually are pouring money into anti-cheat or security, whatever you want to call it. And games have not been doing that at all. Like, you always see, like, here on those movies, like our documentaries and stuff like that, where it's, well, you'd be surprised how lax the security is at this top secret facility or whatever it was back in the 80s or whatever, where we kept all of our nuclear waste that somebody used to blow up a city or what, all this shit. It's kind of like that with video games. You're just like, you'd be surprised how lax it is and how many fucking big companies don't give a flying fuck about it yet.
Yeah, what really gets me is that fighting games don't seem to have this problem. Why can the first-person shooter games just not figure it out, but the fighting game people seem to have it down on lock? None of the fighting games that I've played in, like, the last 5 years have had any cheating issues.
Netcode. I bet you cheats can't, like, if you started using cheats on your client side, I bet you the netcode for most fighter games couldn't handle it. It'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
I guess, man, I don't know. It's tough though, because I love FPSs and I want to keep playing them, but we're just at this saturation point with cheating where it feels pointless. It's starting to feel very pointless to play competitive multiplayer shooters at this point. And it's really infuriating, like what you're talking about with the streamers who cheat and, like, their giant fan base of plebs that sit there and, like, deny their cheating. Be like, no, dude, they're just really good. And here's a tutorial on how you can get good too. And, like, shit like that. You're just like, dude, I watched a video of him clearly aimbotting. We are commenting on the video where he is clearly aimbotting, and you're sitting here telling me, it's just like...
I'll just say it too. That Z Laner guy that I brought up a couple of times, Kowinkadink, dude, he gets accusations is what the community calls it. He gets them like every 4 months. I swear to fucking God. And you got to start wondering. It's multiple people. There's some repeat offenders that are accusing him, of course, but there's multiple people. Year round, he's getting accused multiple times. It's like, at some point, you got to be like, okay, why him and no one else?
Z-Laner
like, come on, guys.
He is a fucking obvious cheater. I don't give a fuck.
It's so funny, too, when these guys, like, do streams together and, like, okay, man, I heard you got another accusation, man, and they just, like, chuckle it off, and they're like, it's so fake how they're, like, responding to it, and they'll be like, we know Doc isn't cheating, that's for sure, and they're, like, pretty much insinuating he's fucking sucks. And it's just like, you guys don't even realize that you're pretty much hurting your argument. Because Doc is so much less, I don't know how to put it, like, efficient in the game compared to you two. Like, a lot. And he plays the game 6 to 7 hours a day almost. And other FPSs. And when he gets on other FPSs, he fucking smokes people. And he doesn't even know what he's doing. So you gotta really think when he steps into Warzone, and these kids that don't put nearly as much hours into the game as him are just soaking up kills. And then they're like using him as like scapegoat joke excuse kind of thing. Like he plays with us and he sucks and we know he doesn't cheat. So like, what are you saying? Like he knows that we're cheating and he just is along for the ride? Maybe. Who cares? That's not the point. The point is we know you're fucking cheating.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so sick and tired of the fucking white knighting in the internet. The white knighting epidemic on the internet is horrific, and it's always been bad, but it has just gone to depths over the last 5 to 7 years, I'd say, that are just unspeakable depths of white knighting for everything, all the way from like video game developers to streamers to Twitch thoughts to all of it. It's like, do you people have any self-respect?
No, most of them don't. No.
The answer is no.
I mean, you got to think, again, this might piss a lot of people off, but you got to think about the type of people that not only like watch somebody playing a video game daily, like the whole stream. Like if they're doing that and they're like subscribing to them, like giving them like their $5 membership monthly to stay part of the club or whatever, and on top of that, they're doing like super chat donations to get noticed. Notice me, senpai, type of thing. That's fucking just
pay pigs.
Such low level shit. I'm at a loss for words. It's just kind of scummy and pathetic. It's just, I don't know how else to describe it. People that conduct themselves like that. I mean, unless you're handicapped or something and you're like staying home and these are the type of sources that help you stay sane and shit. But if you're just like a normal human, you're like, yeah, I watch Z-Laner for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a day, like on Saturday, especially people with families. That's the craziest thing, dude. Like, if you got kids and a wife, and you're even watching a dude play a video game for a fucking half an hour, I'm fucking worried about you, bro.
Oh my god. It's so fucking true, man. It's crazy. I remember last year, I was reading some random news story about some Twitch thought that apparently was being harassed off the internet or some shit. And something popped up in that story that blew my fucking mind. And they started talking about this way that people harass streamers on Twitch. And it's via a feature that I didn't know existed and I can't believe exists. So apparently Twitch thoughts, when their stream's over, they have like this forwarding link where they send all of their thirsty douchebag followers to the next Twitch thought who just started streaming.
Yeah.
And apparently a harassment campaign uses this feature to somehow harass women on the internet, whatever. The point is, who the fuck are these people that are sitting on some Twitch thought stream all the way to the very fucking end? And then they're like, I just watched this bitch for 4 hours and donated $200. Let's just go to the next random thought on the internet and do it again. And like, where does it end? Are you just on Twitch 14 hours a day giving all your money? This is one of the saddest things of this era. Like when they textbook this shit 50 years from now, they're going to do case studies on the people that participated in this in the extreme way that we're talking about right now. Like if you watch someone streaming for 30 minutes or an hour, every once in a while, okay, that's different. But these people that do it all day, every day, and just allow the Twitch thought to forward them to the next Twitch thought over and over until they go to bed, that's extra. That's something different. I don't know what it is, but they're going to do studies on it. I guarantee you.
It's just social media, whatever form it takes, but it's what it is, man. I think what you're talking about, like 50 years from now, they're gonna be talking about like social media, how it's classified almost as like a bioweapon. They're gonna it's gonna have so much regulation on just like the term, like if you're seeking to build something that's considered to be social media, I just feel like in the future it's going to be heavily regulated because it's a power, dude.
Yeah.
It's like all you have to do is become popular. You circumvent all the rules of civilization if you just make a social media platform and somehow it takes off.
Yep.
You become a superpower.
The ironic thing to me is that when I was in high school, people got on the internet to escape high school. Now the internet has become high school.
Oh, yes.
It is bizarre how the world has just flipped in that way.
Yeah. Well, remember like back in the day when you would like meet like a hot chick and like you go meet her mom or something, and she's like kind of a younger mom and she's still kind of attractive, but she's definitely like peaked, and she is like a carbon copy of her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Like dresses the same way and shit like that, and you're just like, what the fuck is that? And I think,
yeah, we've known a few personally.
yeah, and I think like that kind of is how people get online. You know, like older people, they just see young people, like especially activists and stuff like that, and they're just like, yeah, man, they're so young and hip, and man, I used to be like that. I used to want to take down the fucking man, like, and then they're also like, man, they're really hot too. I want to go fuck some young chicks, so I better get into this stuff. Listen,
well,
I just speak
Nickels,
the gospel. I speak the good word. All right.
They don't call it the oldest profession in the world for nothing, do they? Well, before we get to our preview, Broadcaster Nickels, do you have any final thoughts on the Halo Infinite technical preview?
Dude, I'm going to be playing all I can tomorrow and Monday.
Yeah, I like it too. Good. It frustrates the fuck out of me because it feels like there's some things very bizarre about the way other people's damage seems to be higher than yours, and I don't like the emphasis on meleeing. Like the melee strike's way too powerful. You should not.
I love that.
You should not be able to just walk into someone's bullet fire and just smack them in the head and instant kill them. I don't know. I don't like that part. It just seems unbalanced, and it really, I think the aimbot, or not the aimbot, but the controller aim assist makes that way too powerful. I feel like a lot of the people that I see doing it very like slyly, and I think they're using the controller. And I really don't like the fact that I have to use a controller to stay competitive. It seems weird that we're still doing aim assist and controllers on PC. It's like, okay, how about this, guys? You can use a controller, but there's no aim assist. Don't like it? Use a fucking mouse and keyboard then. It's a PC. I'm so sick of aim assist on controllers.
Yeah. I don't even know how you can push the argument from consoles onto PC either. It's like, well, that's how it works. It's like, yeah, because they're console peripherals. That's what they do. But now you're trying to plug one into a PC. It's not like we should over accommodate for that special piece of hardware that was never meant to be playing on it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yep. Yeah, I like the engine a lot. I think that the game feels really good. The weapon balance seems kind of shoddy, but they'll fix that.
The Needler feels great.
Yeah, the Needler's good. That's one of the few weapons that feels right. Like, it doesn't feel like it needs any touch-ups. But some of those guns need some serious touch-ups. And hopefully we'll see that special
Make the spike
mode.
gun. Make the spike gun impale people. Like it's a giant fucking spike gun. We should be able to nail Spartans to the wall.
Mm.
Or give us the Spartan laser back. Either one.
Yeah. Yeah, the power weapons don't feel as powerful as they usually do.
Sniper does. I was fucking smoking people with the sniper.
I mean,
I think it was my best performing weapons on the beta.
I mean, the sniper rifle's good, but it doesn't one-shot on a body shot. It only one-shots on a headshot, which to me, I think a power weapon in Halo, to me, should always one-shot, whatever it is. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But
shields definitely feel kind of hard to pop in this one.
That being said, Broadcaster Nickels, are you ready to get to our preview of Team Ninja's bizarre crossover classic, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, Part Ex Machina?
Ex Ninja Gaiden. Ex Devil May Cry.
What's that? You want more Crack Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight-up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight-up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of Final Fantasy Origins, Stranger of Paradise. Broadcaster Nickels, when you were at the ripe old age of 7 and you were playing Final Fantasy 7, did you ever think in a million years that the creator of Ninja Gaiden would somehow make a Final Fantasy in your 30s?
No. Honestly, I thought the cult over at Square-Enix fucking didn't allow that shit. Enix.
It's really weird how Enix has sort of hoed out Square. Square was such like an insular company before they merged with Enix. But ever since they merged with Enix, Square has just slowly but surely like released the grip on all of its IPs, and there's so much cross-contamination now. You have Square working on games for other companies. You have other companies working on Square games. It's just very incestuous nowadays.
Talent.
Yeah.
Lack of talent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're stretched thin too. Like, they have so many games that they're creating at a time now. If you think about it, like these game studios back in the day, they'd only be working on 1 or 2 games at a time. Now they're all working on like 8 games at a time. Doesn't really seem sustainable, does it?
No. Especially because the world's ending. You're gonna have to start hoarding here soon.
Or it's already ended and we're just phantasms living in purgatory. Just don't know it.
Phantasms in Jerusalem.
So what do you think, Broadcaster Nickels? We've seen 2 trailers for this game. The thing that I remember most from the first trailer is that like that whole like them attacking something and turning it into like a pink crystalline entity thing. The first trailer was full of that. Like every 2 seconds they were doing that to something. And in this new second trailer, they kind of toned that down. You only see them do that like once or twice instead of like 80 times in the first trailer. Think that's from feedback? People are like, this is, why are you guys turning everything into weird pink crystals? Looks like the slime underneath New York subway and Ghostbusters 2, man. What's going on here?
I don't know. It's probably all they could show off back then. They were like,
Yeah.
This is pretty much what we got right now. So, I don't know. Couldn't really tell you what made the pivot from that, but I didn't even remember that. So
I really like the new combat showcase in this new trailer, though. Like they showed a lot of like the magic, whereas the first trailer it really only showed melee attacks, melee abilities, and the pink crystal move, whatever the fuck that is. This new trailer, we're seeing like fire bolts and frost bolts and thunder strikes and shit. Like you're seeing like classic.
I think we saw a glimpse of a summon too, didn't we?
That's what I'm
like
wondering.
2 spirits, so like
looked,
the ice and fire spirit.
Right. It looked like it might be like primordial Ifrit and primordial Shiva, perhaps. But
yeah,
it was interesting the way they framed it, because it framed it like they were enemies, and then like the main character's like, tell me what you are. And I'm just like thinking of Jesse Ventura, like, what office do I need to hold?
Jack Garland, and I want to know, what office do you hold, soldier?
What do you think about we talked a little bit about this already, the dubbing and the fact that it seems purposefully cheesy. Do you think it really is purposefully cheesy, or do you think it's just like they suck?
Yeah, purpose, dude. At this point, I'm full blown conspiracy theorist with this shit. Like they make American voice acting in Japanese games so bad because they like want people to turn the Japanese dialogue on.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yes, appreciate our work.
Yeah.
Because, dude, it's really bad.
It is. It's weird, though, because there are good dubs out there. Like, I'll give a shout out to Persona 5. Persona 5 has probably one of the best dubs in Japanese video game history. It's legit. It's good. It's on the same level as the Cowboy Bebop dub. It's S-class. There's not too many of those out there, but they exist. Why can't it be more common? Like, are these voice actors that are good that expensive that they want to cheap out and hire?
That, and I bet you they're choosing what they pick.
Maybe.
It could be a thing because your voice act, like if the character isn't cool enough or like important enough for how famous you think you are, then you're just not going to do it. Unless you're the guy that voiced Spike Spiegel in American. That guy's a fucking whore.
Yeah.
That guy does everything.
He probably offered to overdub John Cho's voice. It's like, I'm available, guys, you know.
Yeah, let me know. I bet you he helped. I guarantee you he came in for voice lessons for Joe.
You think so?
No doubt. It's such a prolific character. I bet you they called him in just to like see if he could get a little bit of the essence from him, like just like talk like him for a while.
I also heard John Cho did the same training that Keanu Reeves did for John Wick.
Oh, Terran Tactical?
He went to the same. Well, I don't remember the name, but I read an article saying that he went and did the same training that Reeves did for John Wick. I didn't see the actual name, so
the shooting range called Terran Tactical. Terran is his. He's really famous in the gun community.
I don't know exactly. I heard that something like that was going on, so I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty interesting because Spike, I mean, there was a lot of guns, but he was more of like a martial artist.
Yeah,
we didn't hear anything about his martial arts training.
Well, no, that is what I heard about mainly was the martial arts training.
Oh, okay, that couldn't have been Terran. That guy's a heavy set short guy. He's good with guns, not his hands.
Yeah, I don't know. He might have done gun training too, so I don't know specifics, but it seems like John Cho really cares about not sucking in Cowboy. I think he doesn't want this to flop because of him. He's like, I'm okay if it flops because of Faye Valentine, but if this flops because of me, seppuku time. That's what the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, he probably signed a contract. He probably dude. Honestly, I don't know why he would do it. He's not super famous. Maybe he's just having a hard time getting gigs, and this was like what he perceived as his big opportunity. But it seems super risky to me. Live action anime adaptations, just not a good rap. Like it's like communism. It's never worked.
Yeah.
ever worked. And there's many examples you can point to.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's never been a big name actor in an anime live action ever, right? Can you think of a single one? Even the DBZ movie from back in the day, which was horrible, but it had a lot of financing behind it. Like it was an American Hollywood well-financed movie.
No.
And
video game adaptations, yes, but anime, no.
Yeah. Well, yeah, video game adaptations are way different for some fucking reason. I guess
I know. Isn't that super weird? Like somehow they can do video games all right, but not animes.
Yeah, you can get Angelina Jolie for a video game, but for anime, it's like, fuck, don't even think about it. It's weird.
It's like it's like this veil of cringiness you can't pierce with making a live action anime. Like they can't help themselves but not understand the source material they're feeding off of. Like on any level, like every single one felt like that so far.
Yeah. Well, getting back to Stranger of Paradise, this is a prequel to Final Fantasy 1, which was the original NES RPG, basically. In terms of what we think of today as a JRPG, essentially Final Fantasy 1 created it. It is the prototype. It is the number one. And to do a prequel to that, a game that notoriously was short on story. Like, there was not a lot of story in FF1. It was very simplistic. It was the dialogue was kind of like if when you talk to NPCs in towns and shit, like, it was so simplistic it was a joke almost. There's not a lot of dialogue. Not a lot of things happen other than just like the archetypal situations. You know what I mean? Like, it's full of these archetypal moments that kind of tell a story through action, but there isn't like a lot of dialogue. There isn't a lot of cutscenes. You know what I mean? Like, so when you do a prequel to a game like this, 30 years later, it's sort of just like, huh, okay. You have a lot of room to grow, I guess, because there's not a lot holding you back. There's not a lot of, like, when you talk about FF1 canon, like, there isn't much of it because it's so basic and bare bones and simplistic.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I look at this as like tactics, you know, an extreme deviation from its original form, but still with the aesthetic, you know. This is actually attached to an actual Final Fantasy, and that makes it somewhat odd. But I kind of look at it as the same thing. Just seeing the gameplay and how drastically different it is from an RPG, it's like, all right, this is like tactics. This is just like its own standalone, very, very different type of thing.
Yeah, and the fact they call it Final Fantasy Origins implies that there's going to be other games like this that are just like offshoots.
Yeah.
What do you think's next? Let's predict right now. What's the second Final Fantasy Origins? What's it going to be based on? Which FF?
2 and 3.
You think they're going to go chronologically?
Yeah, and that's kind of what my next thing was going to be. Is that what I hope it's not is a reboot of the original 6, because those are. If you think about it, Square has milked those things to death. I'm sure the sales on them is terrible. And they're probably wondering, how do we start like the next generation of Final Fantasy lovers? And we have all this old content that's slowly fading away into existence because it's old, quote unquote, and no one wants to play that stuff. Now is the time to reboot it all, you know? So they can go back and make a game like Final Fantasy Origins and have the main character be Garland, give him the first name of Jack.
Garland. Jack Garland.
and no one would be the wiser if they were young and just playing video games like us, where we're like, wait a minute, that's Garland the villain? Like, what?
Yeah, it's a little hokey, honestly. And the really cheesy voice acting in the dub does not help that. Like, when you see Garland walking with that girl and, like, talking to her with those really cheesy dubs, it just totally, like, eliminates all of the sinister aura Garland has. Like, you're just like, this is like watching a doujin anime right now with a really bad dub.
A doujin anime.
It's a real slice of life, Jack Garland.
Call me Jack. Jack Garland.
I did like the gameplay though. The whole it felt really fluid. I don't know if they just picked really good parts of the game that they have really nailed down, but like when they showed those little encounter fights where it showed the full-fledged battle system going, it was silky smooth, wasn't it? The way it moved around and the way all the objects interacted, like there was no like jitteriness, no jagged kind of movements, nothing weird.
But I would never expect that from Team Ninja. I mean, this is literally their bread and butter. This is what they do.
But
is what they got
how
famous
invested?
for.
How invested are they in a Final Fantasy game? Like, are they really going to give their best effort for this? Do you think so?
Oh, for sure. Especially because, I mean, it's Final Fantasy, bro. If this gets nailed out of the park and they're asked to come back and do another one, that's boko bucks, dude. That's good money.
And it's also unprecedented. Like, basically, they're like, you're better at making Final Fantasies than us now. Come do another one.
yeah. That, and plus, I think Team Ninja's hungry to make like a successor to Ninja Gaiden. You know, they've kind of lived in the shadow of the success of Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 and the Sigmas of those, and the Black and the Sigma of those. And then ever since then, they've kind of like lived in this terrible shadow.
Yeah, they live in a shadow of themselves. It's very bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been involved with some good games over the time, but they've just never really escaped being the Ninja Gaiden people. You know?
Yeah. Why don't they make more Ninja Gaidens? Is there like a political reason or a financial reason? Like, do people just not like Ninja Gaiden anymore?
I don't know. Because I remember Ninja Gaiden was like only on Xbox for a while. And I think
that was a huge mistake, by the way. Huge mistake.
Because I think Rare owned it or something. I forget. I probably could have totally made that up. But anyways, I think Team Ninja was exclusively a Microsoft developer at one point. Like they were in-house, like making the Devil May Cry, the Ninja Gaidens. And then I think they kind of broke off and did their own thing, kind of like Bungie or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember what their real history is, but they're clearly not with Microsoft exclusively anymore. And I think Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3 were both on the PlayStation, so...
Yeah, well, I haven't seen them make a new Ninja Gaiden in a long-ass time, so...
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone wanted it ever since 3. I think they kind of, like, just put it in the vault.
Yeah.
3 was bad, dude. It was really bad. It, like, became one of those games that was, like, $5-10 within a couple months.
Yeah. So how deep do you think the RPG elements are going to go in this game? Because it is based on an RPG. It looks a lot like Devil May Cry, so it's not going to be a turn-based JRPG, obviously, but they got to have some elements, right? Like, they can't just have cursory elements like, oh, look, it's some summons, or, oh, this dude has a fire magic spell. Like, they gotta have some RPG elements, right? So, like, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be equipment? Do you think there's going to be, like, a skill tree system, sort of like maybe FF10? Like, what do you think they're going to do?
I mean, what I'd like to see is just them pretty much do an RPG-based loot system, but for a Devil May Cry type / Ninja Gaiden game. You know, so when you destroy common enemies, they drop loot like Diablo or something like that, and you can... And, you know, certain enemies and certain areas only spawn at certain times, you know, like kind of like old RPG type things, you know, and you can get special loot and materials from them. There should be cooking and other type of side jobs and stuff like that. Just because it's a hack and slash game doesn't mean I don't expect, you know, to be able to, like, you know, craft or cook or be able to pick a job class which then relies on some form of traditional, I don't know, lack of words, but just, you know, what the class should be, you know, like, so if those 3 people that you see in the trailer are your 3 characters that you swap from in between from kind of like Final Fantasy 15, but it's Devil May Cry, so it's a hack and slash type of game. It's an action game. Each one, like a mage should still be a mage, right? Like, just because it's an action adventure game doesn't mean like you shouldn't be able to like have a mage character and be able to sit there and cast while your 2 brawlers or your tank and your DPSer is going at it, you know?
Yeah, that would be cool.
I hope that's what it is.
I mean, I hope that they do that, but I don't think they're going to. Like, I don't think we're going to see the ability to be, like, turn one of those characters into, like, a black mage like Vivi and just have him put on a hat and start casting Fire Aga. But
well, not so much that, but more just heavily casting instead of like just super fast paced running up and hacking and slashing like what we've seen with one of the main characters.
yeah. Well, the easy way out and the way that most of them do it is that every character is just a hybrid and they can all do everything and you kind of just like set them to what you want or whatever. But I would like your idea where you can actually meaningfully set classes and like differences in formation and like have, you stand back and you fucking throw meteors at people. I'll be up here slashing people's throats. I like that dichotomy, but
also does a lot for New Game Pluses.
Yeah,
imagine like a Bloodborne New Game Plus style where like you keep your level and everything, but the enemies keep getting difficult. And on top of that, unique to this game, your class is reset. So you always have a chance to build a unique skill tree to see new builds and stuff. It's kind of like how Rogue, what's that genre called? Roguelite or whatever, or Rogue Vanias.
Roguevanias.
What do you call it? I'm trying to think of the genre of game. They're indie games where it's just a small game, but it's an infinite loop, and you just keep on playing the same dungeon, infinite dungeons.
You're talking about roguelike. That's what they call it.
Roguelike, yeah, roguelike. Why do they call it roguelike?
I don't fucking know.
But you know what I'm talking about, nonetheless. It's something kind of like that, but more, bigger and more Final Fantasy like.
Yeah, all PC gaming hipsters are all about roguelikes. Like, if you go up to any hipster that's a PC gamer, that's like, I play Deepest Dungeon, and I'm on New Game Plus 19, and I think things are going really good for me right now.
Don't get me wrong, I love Hades. I haven't played it for a minute, but I got pretty deep into that game.
Roguelikes are cool, but like the fan base that they attract are just like hipster douchebags. But quick aside, Bloodborne, best New Game Plus mode of all time? Is there a better New Game Plus in any other game than Bloodborne?
I don't think so.
I really think that like, as good as Bloodborne is, the niche that they carved, like, number one for them is the New Game Plus. I think they fucking mastered it.
Especially if you're going into the game pure, like, for multiple runs, then it's even cooler to think about. Because no one's telling you that there's other bosses. You don't know that there's bosses you missed. You don't know there's other ways to go and circumvent certain bosses. Like,
oh yeah, I did actually, like, I think when I stopped playing Bloodborne, I was on New Game Plus 7, I think. And there were several times where I went through the game totally different.
Yeah.
And I skipped certain bosses, and other runs I skipped other bosses, and you can kind of create your own game in Bloodborne's New Game Plus system. It's pretty awesome. And then the way that I don't know how they do it. It's some sort of witchcraft. Like, they randomly change which bosses are tougher than others. Like, there's certain runs where fucking the blood-starved beast was like literally the hardest boss in the game, and then other runs it was a straight-up pushover. I love that.
It's like random rolls on bosses.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I think that is the secret sauce to the New Game Plus mode in Bloodborne, but I don't even understand how it works. I just love it. And man, I can't even think of very many games that I've played a New Game Plus mode of more than once. I think that Bloodborne's one of the few that I have, and that just speaks to how good of a New Game Plus mode it had.
Yeah, I was going to play... I almost got close to playing Ghost of Tsushima New Game Plus, but I knew there was a whole bunch of DLC that was going to come out eventually, so I was just like, I'll save it for that. When all that becomes, a bundle and I can get it for $10.
All right, Broadcaster Nickels, before we get to our review of Midnight Mass, I have one final question for you.
Is my bourbon full?
That's quite okay. We're going to talk about that off air, But for the purposes of our loyal 22 and a half viewers and listeners, pick which game will be better. Final Fantasy 16 or Stranger of Paradise. Go. 16. Which is the better game?
16.
Ooh, easy choice. You took the easy choice.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, and it's only because Yoshi P is on the staff. If Yoshi P was not on the staff, I would
That's
probably
my number one reason.
I would answer.
I was like, they got big sunglasses on 16, all right? Big old Hollywood sunglasses. So I don't know how Origins is standing a chance here. But Team Ninja, they got some punches. We'll see.
I think they do have a puncher's chance. But Naoki Yoshida, a.k.a. Yoshi P, is rumored to be the shadow director of FF16. And at first, you could kind of dismiss that as like, whatever, some douchebag made that up on some fucking 4chan weeboo website or whatever. Okay, whatever, you can say that. However, since then, in like the years since FF16 has been announced, who has done all of the press-related coverage of FF16? Who are all the interviews about FF16 coming from? Fucking Yoshi P, dude. He's like their front man for the media. All like every single thing.
Look at the hero of light on Final Fantasy 14, and then look at the main character of Final Fantasy 16. And
they're the same guy.
Tell me there's not some assets being used or some ideas being shared.
Yeah. So because FF14 is so good and Yoshi P is so good, him being so directly involved in FF16 just bodes really well for the game.
What if Endwalker ends with a setup for 16?
Oh, dude, that would be some next level shit.
Isn't it supposed to be the last one?
No, I don't think
Second
so.
to last one?
They haven't really said anything like that, but people are assuming that it's coming to an end. But FF14 just got a huge boost in popularity thanks to like all the Blizzard shenanigans and fucking Asmongold's douchebaggy ass fucking leading his little Pied Piper trail of rats to FF14. It's created this weird dichotomy now where FF14 is sort of like at the throat of WoW in terms of subscribers, whereas before WoW sort of had this little healthy, not big, but healthy lead on him. It's kind of neck and neck now, and it's like if FF14 somehow surpasses WoW in subscribers, which could happen, might not, but could.
Well, hey, dude, let's not rule out that New World could Ross Perot fucking WoW right out of existence. Just fucking make him lose the election this time of the year.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were thinking that, but based off of the current outlook, I'm gonna say that's far fetched. But
yeah, probably.
But better luck next time, Bezos. And we're back with Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass, and the creator of this limited TV series describes it as the following. An isolated island community experiences miraculous events and frightening omens after the arrival of a charismatic, mysterious young priest. Broadcaster Nickels. Please.
Yes.
Please tell me that this isn't the end. Tell me that this is not...
I don't think it is.
Is this a mirage? Are there palm trees in the desert?
Like by the time it ended, it did feel like a mirage disappearing in the desert, didn't it?
Yes.
Like, fuck.
Did it really happen? Did it really exist?
I don't think I've ever gotten so close to the feeling like, this might be like a weird thing to say, but that feeling I got when I first played Resident Evil 4 is kind of like what Midnight Mass feels like by like the third episode. Like once you start getting heavily into like the church and stuff, like I just got this like overwhelming sense of like just mystery, even though it's all familiar things, like it just, I don't know, even though I kind of thought of what the monster could be and stuff like that and all that, it just, I think I talked to you about it earlier, like a couple days ago, like in the intro where it shows like Father Pruitt or Monsignor Pruitt, just like with this old style photo or painting in the intro just passes by, and it looks like the paintings on the walls in Resident Evil 4, just like these really stoic, rustic individuals that have had a very hard life, and they're, you know, looking at their eyes and they just look fucking dead on the inside, and you're like, is this a village full of dead people on the inside?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this show's about, you know, like a village going nowhere on an island, and yeah, everyone has kind of a bad story behind them.
Yeah, this is one of those TV series that is so deep that it actually feels shallow because of how deep it is. It kind of like eats its own tail a little bit, because when this show first starts, it seems like a solid show. It seems like, you know, this ain't bad. You know, like the first episode, you're like, this is pretty good. Like, this is interesting. But it doesn't feel special at first. They kind of allow you to slip into the special, which is a unique property in television. Like most, the motto in television at this point is you have to grab them on episode 1 or you're done. That's kind of the way it works now. Like, just look at any of the other big TV shows. They all have big episode 1s that like totally just do all the stuff right up front. And then they're kind of, you know, they calm down after that and get worse as time goes on. And they just want to grab you for that initial interest peak. This show is the opposite. This show starts off very kind of mundane. It starts off with a drunk driving car accident with one of the main characters of the show. At first, you think he is the main character of the show. But as the show goes on, you quickly realize that he's a B character. He's not the main character at all.
He's not a B character. It's just that they have a few A characters.
Well, okay.
It's kind of like fucking Saga Frontier, dude. They got like 6 fucking main characters they're trying to...
Kind of. That's a good comparison, actually. I like that. But if we're going to be real about it, Kate Segal is the main character. She has the most on-screen time in the show. And number 2 is our good friend Father Paul.
My favorite.
What a fucking gangster that guy is, by the way. He was really good in Legion, and apparently he's in a whole bunch of other stuff that I've never seen, but now I want to go watch all his shit, because he is amazing.
He's a really good actor.
He is.
Especially, I don't want to get too far ahead, but like when they're in the AA meetings, and like it's the last one, right? Or not the last, the
one where he starts to get angry, right? Where he starts yelling at him. I know.
He does such a good job of like being in his character, but being frustrated because he himself is slipped. Like when he's saying those things in that last AA meeting, it feels like a fucking god damn it, a Monsignor, if you will, whatever you want to call him, father. It felt like a dude in that type of world slipping. Like he is just like, fuck, I can't speak of God anymore. I just don't agree. And you could see it. It was really well done.
Yeah. It was a real acting tour de force, to be real about it. Like he has so many different moments in this show. And this is a 7-episode television. This is like Band of Brothers. This is, when they say limited, they mean limited. This is 7 episodes. Some of them are a little bit over an hour. Most of them are a little bit under an hour. But so we're talking about 7 hours total of content here. And the amount of different sorts of acting that he does. He has so much range in this show, from like the super angry to like the fucking super villainous, all the way down to like the super apologetic, the super regretful, remorseful. Like there's so much happening with that character in this show. It's astonishing that they just got so much into 7 episodes. And take note, every other fucking creator of television on the planet. Watch Midnight Mass. This is how you make television. Don't fucking bore us. Get to the fucking chorus.
Yeah. There's small things in the series, too, that you don't notice until after the fact. But, like, did you pick up on Monsignor Pruitt's, him in the first... like 3 episodes before he
before they officially reveal that he is Monsignor Pruitt?
Well, that I
When he's
forget
still
which
Father
comes
Paul.
first, but the first time, yeah, maybe. But the first time you start seeing him, or you realize that he's drinking the communion wine. Before you realize what it is, but you're starting to realize that he's like drinking it for some reason. If you think about that moment and you think about how fast Riley woke up and turned with, they even said it, they gave it a number, 6 hours it took for him to get up and become what it took Pruitt like 3-4 episodes to become. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. But then I realized in the first 3 episodes, he had a cup in his hand always. Every time he was sitting down, like when he was reading the book, when the power went out, he had a cup in his hand. He was drinking something. When he was at the AA meetings, he always had a cup in his hand. He was always drinking something. No one else was drinking something. And I think it was the communion wine. I think he was always drinking the communion wine, and even from the very, very beginning. And that was his way of like fending off the beast. It was really well done, and they don't say it at all. It's just kind of, you just have to see it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. This is an amazingly crafted television series. It is, every episode has a point. I love that. There are no filler episodes. Like, episode 1 establishes Riley. Episode 2 establishes the island, and it establishes Father Paul, quote unquote, within the island community. It's sort of like it's like the orientation episode. Then episode 3, it just jumps straight into the lore, and all of a sudden you start to figure out who Father Paul is. And all of a sudden, a fucking bitch in a wheelchair starts walking, and that's when you know you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy.
That was such a brutal part of the series, dude. He's just like, he's so gangster about it. He's like, no. I was like, oh, this is gonna go bad.
I love the part where she started to wheel herself closer to him, and he just like, fuck no, and he walked up the stairs. That was so good. And like the parents just being like, why are you doing this to her? Like, I loved that scene. That was one of those scenes that's like really awkward and really well acted, and it just makes the tension with the awkwardness so real when you're watching it. Like, you can feel like why the fuck is this guy trying to embarrass this wheelchair girl? Like, what is he doing?
There's a couple parts of the series though that just don't make sense to me. And one is Pruitt on the beach in the rainstorm.
That wasn't him. That was the angel.
But in his coat, like, the only reason
they show him, he was wearing, that was his disguise when he was outside of his coffin or whatever, right?
Oh, the only thing is that they said before that moment that he, like other people, had like seen him wandering on the shore alone, like being mad. Why was the angel just standing looking out to the shore in a rainstorm, like? Because every time it showed, like, actually, like, purposely showed you the angel, he was flying through the air, he was hunting, and it would never show you him. He would just, like, disappear into, like, a house or something like that. But going back, I get what you're saying. That's what they're implying, is that it was the angel. But, like, why would the angel walk away from Riley, like, as a human? Like, it was just, that whole thing just seemed kind of weird. Like, if it was the angel, like, wouldn't he just, like, gotten Riley right there?
Well,
that would have been a perfect moment.
This is one of the reasons I love this show, because clearly the angel is basically a Nosferatu vampire that Father Paul, Monsignor Pruitt, finds when he's on his little elderly trip to the Vatican, or not the Vatican, to Israel, to Jerusalem. And so he gets like lost in a fucking, and this is all biblical, and I'm a real sucker for biblical horror and biblical sci-fi. And that's one of the reasons I love Xenogears so much, because it's a biblical horror sci-fi, essentially, video game. Yeah. So I'm a sucker for this, and I'll admit I'm a little biased, but I love the way that they don't explain any of this to you. They frame the first 3 episodes as a horror movie, essentially, with like this yellow-eyed demon watching people through windows in the shrubberies. And like the very first time you see the angel is when fucking Riley's little brother is smoking weed out on the beach, right? Remember, with his friends in the first episode? And like he sees the yellow eyes in a bush and he looks, does a double take, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
I love that like whole Hitchcock style soft horror without the blood and without like the gore porn, but with like the sinister suspense. And they just frame the show like that early on. You have no fucking idea what this creature is. You just know that Father Paul brought it with him. They tell you that, but you don't know what it is. You don't know, hey, I thought it's Monsignor Pruitt, and he somehow turned into a vampire, and this Father Paul guy, for some reason, is trying to maybe cure him somehow by bringing him back, or there's a lot of like open pieces, but there's nothing set in stone. And when he, like what you just said, when he's on the beach and then Riley starts chasing this Nosferatu vampire that we know is the Angel, in all logical horror sense, you think this vampire is going to turn on him and eat him on the beach. But he doesn't. He runs like a scared child and then vanishes. Which means he is not just a simple monster, Broadcaster Nickels. This thing thinks, it has an agenda, it is not cruel for the sake of being cruel. It has plans, and that is the most epic thing you can do with a monster, is to give it a brain.
Yeah. It also only took out scummy people.
Yep.
In the beginning, at least.
Exactly. Yeah. The only kills we saw early on was a drug dealer, and who was the other one? There was one other kill. I can't think of who it was.
Joe. Well, that was... never mind. That was Father Pruitt.
Wasn't there a second kill before he's revealed, before like the whole big reveal thing happens? I thought there were 2 kills. Am I imagining the second one?
No, well, I think what you're thinking of is him landing in that vacant house and making residence, and then
that's when he takes
lures
the
drug dealer.
Yeah.
Later, like in a different episode, he takes the drug dealer into that. Lures the drug dealer into that house, and then after that, when the kids run in there in the last episode, there is a woman in there he's feeding on. Right. And
that's another thing that's interesting. So they show all of his kills from beginning to end. As they walk into the house, they see like little mouses, little raccoons, or like little squirrels. And like the game keeps getting bigger and bigger as they walk through. And eventually they find the dead drug dealer, and then they find him feeding on this woman. Yeah. So he made it a point not to feed on humans at first.
I think that was for covertness, honestly, because he wanted to make a covenant.
Right. So this is not just some simple monster vampire. This thing had a plan, and it was working with Father Paul. It was working with him in unison, and that is sewn into stone with the whole Riley. When Riley comes on to the AA building, or the rec center, and discovers the Angel there with Monsignor Pruitt, and that fucking Angel turns and does his angel dive at him and starts biting his neck out. That is like the pinnacle of where this show switches. It switches from like this mysterious horror movie to like this sort of religious cult vampire movie.
Quickly.
So quickly.
It's so funny. It's definitely a take on faith too, and like where it can bring you and stuff like that. Blind faith, that is.
Right.
Because it's just like seeing these devout people of God, and they're just like, no, drinking poison and being reborn into vampire. That's all right. Mm-hmm. It's part of God's plan.
Yeah. So now that we've established that the Angel is not a monster, it is smart, it has a plan, it has an agenda, what do you think its true agenda was? Was it simply to make humanity all into vampires? Because if they did that, then they'd have nothing to feed on, and eventually they'd just die out. So like, what was its actual plan? Because clearly it was not there to just feed and murder. It was there to create a covenant, as you said.
It's again, it's one of the plot holes to the series that I think
you think
is
it's a
that,
plot hole? Okay.
well, yeah, because they find him in Damascus. The cave has been unearthed, so even if Pruitt didn't go in there, he was free to roam at nighttime. He's on a huge continent where he could have started a covenant and a lot more buildings to hide in too on that giant ass continent. And when the first episode comes in and you see him getting brought in the chest, I'm thinking, oh, well, in hindsight, I'm thinking, oh, this is like a vampire trope. He can't cross large bodies of water. He needed a servant to do it for him, put him in a coffin, aka the chest, and transport him across a body of water. And but then at the end, we don't know if he escapes. They kind of imply that he probably won't escape, but I think that's on purpose. But nonetheless, they show him in a weakened form flying over a large body of water to the nearest landmass, running from the sun. And it's just like, wait a minute. Then why? Wait a minute. Why was this guy just waiting for like this really weird niche opportunity to be on an island, which, in hindsight, is the worst location for him? He has nowhere to run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
well, yeah, I don't call that a plot hole. I call that sort of mysterious intrigue.
Yeah, it's benefit of the doubt, right? It's
right. Well, the way I put it, or the way I look at it, is Monsignor Pruitt basically is the first human this Nosferatu vampire has seen in thousands of years, right? So I don't know if this angel was just living in these catacombs eating rats, or if it was somehow in some sort of stasis mode until the cave opened and it realized it could feed again. I don't know exactly how that works. But with me, and I have seen so much vampire stuff in my life. I've seen every vampire movie. I've seen almost every vampire anime. I've seen all that shit. I've played all that shit, all the vampire video games. Like I've consumed a lot of vampire content, so I know one of like the really intrinsic things to vampires is this romanticism with their prey. There's a romanticism with it, and the way that
it's because their prey is they're also their peers. They get to choose.
Well, I mean, in this case, the angel is clearly a different species. He's not just a human with vampire powers. This is a Nosferatu winged demon creature.
Yeah, he's like origin vampire
yes.
form. He's like a different thing.
Right. So when I see him feed on Monsignor Pruitt and then like look deep into his eyes and then cut his wrist open to give him the blood, I'm thinking like Black Butler. Have you ever seen the anime Black Butler?
No.
Well, essentially, he has made Monsignor Pruitt his familiar. You know what I mean? Like, you're now my human servant slave. But in the way you look at the world, you look at me as a messenger of God. And it creates this crazy dynamic to me where it's like Monsignor Pruitt just got turned into a 25-year-old like stud version of himself. He was about to die before this happened. He thinks that God saved him. He thinks that this angel the angel did save him, but he thinks that this is God's work. He's like, oh, I got to share this with all my friends. And he starts traveling. And I love the way that he sort of described it as I would travel through the day and then the angel would follow me at night to get caught up. And then like this like little sort of tag you're it way of traveling. And it really struck me with like, oh yeah, Monsignor Pruitt is this guy's little scout. He's his familiar. He lets him go first and then he follows him because he has his blood link with him. He knows the way is safe.
He's his guide to the new world.
I think that this angel, whatever it actually is, understood. I think this thing has a super IQ. I think it's super intelligent. And I think it understood that despite its power, the world has changed and he needed to create a foothold. And so he knew that this familiar of his could lead him to this totally blocked off island where he could create this army where no one would know until it was way too late. And I think it was all on purpose.
I mean, that could definitely be the running idea. Just, I don't know. There was, at one point you're like, yeah, this thing is super intelligent, but then it's very gluttonous.
Yes.
To the point where it doesn't even notice a threat when it's feeding. In 2 different instances, when it got set on fire by the kids, it literally let them fucking shoot it twice, pour gasoline on it, make a trail all the way outside without moving at all, or even acting like it's right, and then got set on fire and just flew away. Like, it didn't even it didn't put itself out and then attack the kids, it just flew away. And it's just like, well, that kind of seems unintelligent. Like, it's not aware of its surroundings that much.
No. I see. I totally take a different take on that.
But then there's also the fucking, the ending, where the chick is like literally tearing holes into his wings slowly while he's feeding. And he looks and he notices. He's like, oh, who gives a fuck? I don't care. And then he gets up after he's like realizes the sun's coming. And then he looks at his wings like, oh, fuck, this bitch. And then still flies away. It's just, it didn't make sense to me.
Well, it does make sense to me because, again, with vampire tropes, there is this sort of, like, I talked about the romanticization of like the prey and the vampire, right? And I think that this show takes it a step further, where when the angel is feeding, it's almost like it's performing a sexual act. Like, it is so entrenched into what it's doing. You know how when you are asleep and someone tries to wake you up and you're having a really vivid dream, and as soon as they try and wake you up, you like kick them away and you go straight back to sleep. That is how I viewed the way he was feeding. It was almost like this like sort of semi-cosmic ecstasy state that cannot be interrupted.
Semi-cosmic ecstasy.
Well,
sounds like a Starbucks secret menu item.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being an apologist, but I sort of look at these things and I see where they're going with them. Like, I don't see this as being a plot hole because I understand what they're going for with this thing just being so in love with what it's doing in that moment. Like, it's just so desperate to keep doing it, to keep it going, that it dims all external threats to the point of like, none of that matters. You know what I mean? Like, when it
truly didn't matter in the end, did it? None of it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the vampire, I guess you could make an argument that he's stupid, but I'm just going to take the opposite side on this one. I think that it is super smart,
clearly
but has
not
a
stupid.
huge weakness.
Because he knew what communion was. He got in the robes. He got in the church. He stood up and he actually tried putting on the airs of being Lord above them. Mm-hmm. You know, so
yes,
he's intelligent to some point. It's just like those two things kind of contradicted in my head. I was like, okay, how can he be this sentient creature, super intelligent creature that knows the power of fooling humans with gospel and godly shit, but then is also the type of creature that's just like, nah, I'm gonna suck this blood even to my own detriment sometimes. Like,
well, I guess for me to put it in a very simplistic way, I view the act of feeding for the angel as a sort of mix between sex and heroin. It's almost like it's having sex and it's injecting heroin into itself and tripping on heroin at the same time. And when you're like, think about like when you're having sex, and then think about, I mean, you don't do heroin, I don't do heroin, but you know what happens when people are on heroin. You've seen enough television, you've seen enough movies, you've seen enough after school specials. You know how heroin works. And if you really pay attention when it feeds, it's almost like it's in this like ecstasy drugged state where it just cannot allow
it's definitely a
external
trance.
stimulus. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's like a physical attribute weakness that they're installing into this creature. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like definitely like this irresistible thing. You can tell like they like that was like one of the main things that separated the good from the bad people in the end was their control of the thirst or whatever. But you know, the other thing, you know, on the subject of him being like a winged demon type vampire, I wonder if they were taking like maybe he was a human and he's just been a vampire for so long, maybe that's the evolution of a vampire when they're around long enough type of thing.
That's a good question.
You'll never know unless they make a number 2 and they want to dive into that. That's, you know, I guess that's the next thing we should talk about is the potential of a midnight mass too, or maybe just not calling it midnight mass at all and just like continuing. I hate to say it, and I don't want them to like take it as far as a lot of people abuse it, but like a universe, a tiny universe. Like this has the potential to be like a couple different iterations, you know, like I could see like a sequel and maybe even a trilogy type project of some kind, you know, maybe the first one was the 7-episode miniseries. Maybe they finish it with a movie, you know, that shows where the vampire goes and continues or ends or whatever. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And appropriate.
That is the one thing that I was really surprised by when it ended. I mean, basically the show ends with Riley's little brother and the wheelchair girl on a boat, and they're the only two that survive the island. They never became vampires, but they did have the vampire blood in them. And as they were trying to save these two kids at the end, I'm just thinking, what are you doing? Like, they have the blood. As soon as they die, they're just going to turn into you, and it's just going to happen anyways. Like, you need them to stay on the island and die too, right? But they conveniently sort of wrote in this thing with the doctor where she's like, well, maybe eventually it'll fade away and they'll just be normal humans again. But that was a theory. And I thought it was really weird how they just shoved these kids off the island to save them, even though they could be the end of humanity as well. But they were very smart to make the final line of the show being the wheelchair girl saying, I can't feel my legs, which is normally a very somber, sad moment. But in the context of this show, it's them telling us they don't have the vampire blood anymore. They're okay. They can live.
Yeah. And how did you take that? What do you think they were implying by that? Because I thought that was their, like, I'm like, is that their way of saying that Nosferatu died? That he didn't make it? Because why just all of a sudden on the boat, their blood runs out in her leg? Like, conveniently, she makes the whole journey and then her legs run out on the boat. Like, this day, the day of all the shit going down, like, that's when the blood runs out. It just seems like they were, in my mind, they were like, are they saying he didn't make the journey, that he fell into the ocean, his wings gave up or something, and when the lead vampire dies, you know, the power disappears, like, you know, because they were all servants of him.
Yeah, another vampire meme that I like.
Yeah. So I thought maybe that's what they were trying to say.
I think that is what they're trying to say. The you see, the writing in this show is too good for 99% of it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just have these glaring parts where the writing is bad out of nowhere when it's so good for the other parts. So like when I look at the parts that you think are bad, I'm like, okay, this isn't bad, but this is a little too deep and I'm not like seeing something. And I think that's exactly what you just caught on to. Whereas a shallow viewer of this show might see that final line as being, oh, well, that's convenient that all of a sudden now she can feel legs and she's okay and everything's okay and happy ending. But I think you nailed it with that. I think that this is like some 2-layer writing, and they are implying vampire died in the ocean. He got caught. He's dead.
He got. Yeah. Well, the other thing was, and I think they were just separate and I was just looking into it too much, but the ash falls first. And I'm like, all right, is that just all the ash of the dead people? But then she said, oh, I can't feel my legs shortly after that. And I was like, oh, is the ash fucking Nosferatu burning up? And that was like his ash raining down on them? Or I was like, could it be both? The ash of the people on the island and him? I don't know. This all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
They also missed a great opportunity with the Ash Wednesday, and then the letter Riley wrote to fucking Pruitt, he's like, we returned to dust. So dust was like a big theme. And I was like, then it rained ash, and he touched his hand. I was like, I'm surprised they didn't put the ash cross on their foreheads of all their dead parents and shit. It would have been like a very like religious thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not buying that there's going to be more to this.
I'm 50-50. I kind of just don't want there to be, but
I don't want there to be, and the way that it was written, the way it was finished, I don't think there will be, because if you really think about it, there's no true interesting end game to the end of this show that could continue. Like, do you want a show about Wheelchair Girl and Riley's little brother living happily ever after in Massachusetts? I don't.
The only thing, yeah. Go ahead.
The only thing that could be good is something focusing on the angel, maybe him escaping and going somewhere else and kind of starting it again. But then it becomes, this is just the same thing again. Like, I think that the majesty of this show is in the fact that it was so short and had a beginning and an end, and it just exists in this small bubble of greatness. And anything that they do with a sequel is going to just put a scarlet letter on the franchise. I don't think it should be a franchise. I think that wanting to make everything a franchise is like the worst thing that's happened to television and movies nowadays.
It really is.
I really, really hope that there is no sequel, but even just looking at it, I don't think that they really set one up. Like, I just don't. I don't think they set one up. I think that they put a lot of closure in it.
I think the only thing a sequel could be is them saying that the vampire did escape, and it would probably be set far in the future when the wheelchair what's her name, Lisa and Warren, I think is the guy, like they'd be like grown up or whatever, and like the vampire for some reason is still around or something like that, and like,
they track him down as an adult. You're my apostles.
Not that, but they're like they see like the sighting, the signs of him or whatever, and they're like, they know what it is, and they could base it somehow around that, but that's it. Those are the only 3 connections left in the whole series. Everything else is gone. The island's gone.
It is, and it went down in a crazy way. It's just it's so crazy how the first 3 episodes and the final 4 episodes are so different from each other. Like, it's 2 different shows almost.
I love how it goes out of control super quick. Like, Pruitt gets a bullet in the head, and Bev's just like, well, just let him out, and right, Pruitt, and he's like just shaking his head there, like no. and then she's this next scene throwing a Molotov through one house. I want to talk to you. Then she's just like,
let's burn it all.
Just burn it all. Let's burn it all down. And then they go to the church, and he's revived, and he's like, why is this whole town on fire? He's like, because we had to.
And I don't mean to bring up a sore spot, but here we have another like insanely evil ginger character in television. Here. Like, why? Like Bev Keane is one of the most believable evil religious characters I've seen in so long. Like, she was kind of stunning in this show from beginning to end. Like, she reminds you of like all these religious zealots you've known in your life, all sort of combined into like the super zealot. And like, to see her go from like, I'm just a normal church girl that is really mean, and I'm going to be mean to you, but I'm going to do it in a really nice way, to going full blown, we will burn the earth and bring it to ashes at the end. Like, it just like
she was not fazed by one thing the whole movie, like, or the whole series. She wasn't fazed. Like, what? Oh, you You can't be out in the sunlight. Oh, you literally sucked a man's head dry. Okay.
You had a good reason for that. I know you did.
This is God's will.
Oh,
I love the
God.
ending for her too. Just like totally thinking she's gonna take it, and then just starts digging into the sand like a fucking worm.
Yeah. There. So I got one thing I want to ask you is so the island doctor Sarah, her mom is a very interesting character in this show. First of all, she is as old as Pruitt. She is the oldest person on the island. She is one of the only people. Oh no, she is the only person on the island that knows what Pruitt looked like when he was a kid, when he was young. And they don't even try and hide this. This is one of the things I love about this show is good shows don't need to hide things. They can give you hints and be like, if you're smart enough to pick it up, good for you. If you're not, you're going to find out soon anyway. And this is one of those moments where the first time Pruitt comes in to give her like bedside mass, she looks at him while she's still an invalid, while she's still like dying with dementia or whatever, looks at him and says, "John?" And then they like try and kind of play like the daughter plays like, "That's not John. This is the new preacher guy." Blah blah blah. But you look at it and you're like,
well, he makes a joke about it. He's just like, it's a easy mistake. It's the same tailor or whatever.
Right. And you're just like, well, no, like the show just told you that this is Monsignor Pruitt, and it's up to you to believe it and understand it. And I think that's a great writing style. And it's one of the hallmarks of this show. It's not afraid to tell you things where other shows would be like, "Oh no, we can't reveal that. That's too soon." Be like, "Fuck that, bitch." A lot of people will just let the joke play off. Like you just said, like, "Oh no, she's senile. She's old, blah, blah." And people are so open to suggestion that as soon as you suggest that it was some mistake, they'll just go with that. But then there's other people that won't.
Everything has meaning in that.
Every
show, like even like down to like when Lisa goes in the trailer to tell Joe she forgives him, and they see the gun on the wall, and you're like, "Is that his?" Like, "No, I threw that one in the bay or whatever." But they still ended up using that gun. Showing that gun on the wall was a message. It was hidden there, you know.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed right when I started watching the show, the very first time I saw Mildred Gunning, who is the mom of Sarah, I said, that is a hot young woman with old lady makeup on. And as soon as I realized that, it kind of changed things for me.
Yeah.
I started looking at the show differently. I was like, wait a second. There is a reason they cast her mom as a young, hot girl in old lady makeup. There is absolutely no reason to do that unless you have a reason to do that. So it made me look at the show with a very skeptical eye from that point on. Like I was looking for shit from then on.
And it was only her and Monsignor.
Yep.
That had young people in old makeup. They're the only characters that did that.
It was very obvious that something was going to be up with that character. And goddamn was something up with that character. She ended up being one of the most important characters in the entire show. She literally saved Monsignor Pruitt from damnation, I guess. Like she...
bullet in his head cured him.
It's crazy, like what happened. Like it happened so fast.
I don't get it. Why'd you change your mind, Monsignor? Well, the love of my life put a bullet in my head, and I realized I went a little too far.
She's a good shot.
She is a good shot.
She's a much better shot than Sheriff Hassan.
Yeah, no shit.
Who he's like the man, like he's the reverse goat of the show. Like he has every opportunity and does nothing at any time to do anything. Like he fails at every corner. He does absolutely nothing right. The only thing he does right is die with his son at the end on the beach. That's the only thing he did correct in this entire show. That sheriff was weak.
Yeah, he was really weak. I was like, man, you're just going to let your son go to Easter fucking Sunday? You're a Muslim. Like, what a cuck. It's like, have some self-respect.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I want to kind of correct you slightly. There were two other characters that were younger, attractive people in old people makeup. And that's Riley's parents.
Yeah, but that was just like soft makeup. They didn't have prosthetics on them.
I challenge you to look at a picture of his mom, the actress that plays his mom. She is a smoke show.
Yeah,
like she's hot as fuck.
I could tell at the very end when she pushes Aaron Green off the porch when she tells him Riley's dead for the first time, and she's like in the light and all the like the old makeup's off of her. I was like, whoa, she's kind of hot.
Yeah, I think that the actress that plays his mom and dad are actually close to his age. Like, I think Ed Flynn and Annie Flynn are both very close to the same age.
Dude, Ed might actually have old man prosthetics on. I didn't think about that, he kind of looked like a burn victim, and I'm like, wait a minute, that could have been prosthetics.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if you look up a picture of him, he looks basically the same age or maybe a couple years older than the actor who plays his son. So,
was the guy that played Riley in any old shows? Like halfway through, I saw his face and I just got like deja vu. I was like, was he in like an old like teen show or something, like One Tree Hill or something like that?
One Tree Hill.
Yeah, I just like childhood's like my synapses are fine. I was like, was he in like a teen like heartthrob drama or something like that? I couldn't remember. But he looks a lot like what's his name who played Lex Luthor in Smallville. I always forget Michael something.
Yeah, he does look like him. The only thing I have ever seen him in other than this show is The Purge, one of the Purge movies. I think it's the third
He's in
one.
One of the Purges?
Yeah, I think he's in the third Purge movie. The last one I watched, actually. Because I didn't watch.
Is he a good or a bad guy? Is he like an actual like main character?
I don't really remember. I don't think he wasn't the main character. I know that because Frank Grillo was. But I remember him being kind of a big character in it. Like he wasn't like an extra, you know what I mean? Like he was in it. Like he was a character. I just don't really remember exactly how much he was in it. But that's the only other thing I've ever seen him in. But now that we have sort of gone over the ending, let's take a step back. I want to talk about episode 6. The episode before the last episode. Now, the final 3 episodes of this show are straight up like breathless, nonstop. Like I would be surprised if many people didn't watch the last 3 episodes very close together. I don't imagine a lot of people watch episode 5 and then wait a week, then watch episode 6 and wait a week, and then watch episode 7. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure most people are watching those all within like a 24-hour period because of just how crazy it gets, how frantic it gets, how things escalate so quickly. And when we finally get to the Midnight Mass itself, like what the show is named after, this is the greatest episode of the show, in my opinion. What do you think? Episode 6. When I watched episode 6, when I finished it, I had heart palpitations. I couldn't believe what I just watched. I was so in love with that episode of television.
It was good, man. It gives you that really culty horror vibe, and it really honed it and perfected it all the way up to the vigil. And everybody like coming out and lighting the candles and then making it to the church, and like half the characters know they're about to die. Essentially, they're just like, "What are we doing?" Like, and no one. It's like a fucking tractor beam. It's just pulling you to the St. Patrick's Church. It kind of reminds you of Resident Evil 4 when the bell rings and everyone's just like, "Oh, they don't know this." Yeah, fucking goes.
You know what it reminded me of? Like the moment when Monsignor gets the bullet in the head from his newly hot old squeeze.
He's like, I thought we were gonna fuck.
I fucking loved the Bev Keane. This character is so good. The way she just instantly was like, lock the doors. lock them all in. It reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn, a unsung
Totally,
classic of Quentin
Totally.
Tarantino.
Hoodwink classic right there.
Didn't he have like a really cool name in that movie too, like Roman Gecko or something like that?
Yeah.
Like he had
well,
some
Roman Gecko is what's his name from Night of the Roxbury's, but
he had like a really cool name, I remember, and like he was such a, like
all of them did, dude. All of them had like big Hollywood names too. They were cool.
Yeah, but the scene from Dusk Till Dawn that everyone talks about, that everyone knows the movie from, is basically when they do the exact same thing. They lock all the doors and all the hookers turn into vampires and start eating everyone. Yep. This scene channeled like the most pure form of that same energy that I've ever seen.
There was no cock pistol though.
No.
There was just a pistol, no cock pistol.
but this was like one of those like scenes that are so savage when you're watching it that like I have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of horror movies in my life, Broadcaster Nickels. Very few of them make me blush. That part of episode 6, the kill box scene, made me blush a little bit. That was some savage, brutal vampire action, and I swear, I don't think I'm ever going to see anything that cool again in my life. I am questioning whether I will see a scene that sinister in television again. What do you think? Is that once in a lifetime
I gotta watch
scene?
my boy Flanagan's fucking material more, dude. I gotta see if he's a repeat offender. Dr. Sleep is on my menu now. Just because of how good this was.
So Mike Flanagan, what did he do on Dr. Sleep? Is he the director, the writer? What is he on that?
I'm pretty sure he's the director. Mike Flanagan is like, he has a brother that works with him. And like, at least on this project, Midnight Mass, there's 2 Flanagans at least on the reel, and I swear his name pops up multiple times. I'm pretty sure he's producing, directing, and writing in some cases. In the case of Midnight Mass, I'm not sure about Doctor Sleep, but I know that is one of the notches on his belt. So
interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of him till this show.
He did Oculus too. He did. I'm trying to think of all the things he did, but Oculus and Doctor Sleep are the things I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. Well, Doctor Sleep has catapulted to the top of my watch list.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Like
I didn't watch it because it was one of those movies that I didn't hear anything good about initially. Like no one was talking about it. The few people that did watch it, they were like, nah, it's all right. It's just like, it doesn't really have any connection with The Shining. And I was like, oh, really? All right. Well, I'm just going to put it on the indefinite back burner. And then I forgot about it.
Yeah. Oh, so Broadcaster Nickels, what do you think? Is that it? What's your favorite episode? We got book 1, Genesis. We got book 2, Psalms. We got book 3, Proverbs. We got book 4, Lamentations. We got book 5, Gospel. We got book 6, Acts of the Apostles. And book 7, Revelation. Which is your favorite book?
I think Lamentations was my first favorite. Just because of like, that was the next episode that had the biggest impact, you know? That's when Monsignor, like, I'm pretty sure that's when he ate Joe Crowley.
Yeah, that was the episode where shit, when shit started to flip. Yeah,
I thought that was really. I love that scene, by the way. Like he was like a stumbling, like addict. Like he's just like he just give me a hug and just, and then he's like, get away from me. He's just like, yeah, well, what if you just accidentally get pushed out? Yeah. And he's like, oh no, what happened? Are you all right? No, yeah. He just slowly starts drinking the blood, and then the very last part of the episode, it like cuts away, and then snaps right back to him, just like fucking eating the back of his fucking skull. And that's the other thing too, the use of the audio and the soundtrack, it's super good. But I think 6 kind of does take the cake because Midnight Matt, that scene is so cool. and the aesthetic of it, knowing what's coming, the direction of the outcome of them all getting released. I think overall it's just a better episode, but I don't know. Lamentations has a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, every episode of this show is good. Even the first episode, which is very like compared to the rest of the show, episode 1 is very mundane. But it's
one is like a Trojan horse.
It is that's a great way to put it.
It really is. They're like, this is a story of drunk driving.
Yeah.
And nope.
Yeah. The show starts out as like this weird, like it could turn in, like when you watch episode 1, this show could turn into a rom-com.
Dude,
easily.
It ends with him laying on a prison cell bed trying to go to sleep with that dead chick, like looking at him. You're just like, all right, I kind of got an idea of where the series is going to go. Next episode, cut. We're going to turn this into a vampire flick. What do you think? Vampire flick? Yeah.
Yeah. And what did you think? So after the angel, turns Riley into a vampire, and Monsignor Pruitt kind of sits with him for hours trying to convince him, hey, this is good. Like we're gods now. Good. Like this is like we're in the light now. Like this is good, bro. Like let's chill. Let's not tell everyone. Let's keep with the plan. And like he does this whole thing with him. And at this point of the show, you're thinking, okay, this kid is haunted by a ghost. Now he is a ghost. Is he going to embrace it? And then you see him show up at Kate Seagal's house in the middle of the night and says, come out on a boat with me. And you're just like looking at this like, oh dude, this could go a few different ways. And the way that they masterfully did this scene with them going out onto the boat, with you kind of thinking, is he going to like take her like and make her his like vampire bride? Like what's happening right now? And then for you only to find out at the very end, like he came out to kill himself, but he wanted to do it with her. Like, so she could be the last thing he sees, and so that he could warn her. And like this whole thing was so beautiful. And then the way I think this is one of my favorite.
It's the dream too. It was the dream the whole time.
It was the dream the whole time. The writing in the show is so impeccable. And the way that they crafted the scene was just S tier. When he is about to die, when the sun is about to come up, and he's about to die, I love the fact that instead of showing him die immediately, they like sort of transposed him into heaven. And the fucking girl he killed in the drunk driving,
she's whole,
reaches out to him to like bring him to heaven, and he's smiling, and he's going to heaven because he did the right thing and he didn't go with Monsignor Pruitt's vampire revolution. And then it hard cuts to him just fucking blowing up in front of this bitch with her crying. Like that was master class in direction, man. Like that was perfect cinematography. That scene was amazing.
It's good. Not a lot you can really compare it to, especially on fucking Netflix.
No, like there isn't. There really isn't. Like it's just fucking. This show is fucking awesome. My favorite episode, as you know, is episode 6. I think it's in my top 5 episodes of television of all time across all TV series.
But next to Red Wedding?
It's honestly, it's right next to Red Wedding. As soon as I finished the episode, I immediately started the comparisons. I was like, okay, the feeling that I got from this episode is very similar to the feeling I got from the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. So, yeah, I don't think it's just a great episode. I think it's one of the great episodes of television history. Which is interesting because IMDb actually has episode 5 as the highest rated. Barely, at 8.9. Episode 6 is 8.8. But I found that very interesting because I love episode 5. It's a good episode, but it wasn't like you went with Lamentations episode 4. I probably would have went with that before episode 5 too. So I don't know what's up with IMDb, but they don't quite have the same vibes as we do on this show.
Well, it's a bunch of paid for critics.
Is IMDb paid for critics? I thought IMDb was kind of humans. I thought it was more actual people.
I doubt that. They don't allow that nowadays.
All right, Broadcaster Nickels. As you know, here in the Crack Cellar, we use a patented official system to rate all of our reviews. And you have never once mistaken that system. And that's why we call you a professional broadcaster, Nickels. You are the broadcaster because of that fact that you will never make that mistake.
Baloo.
On that system, Broadcaster Nickels, what do you rate Midnight Mass?
Oh, dude, I'm best here. It's getting a face off.
It's face off.
This is like, it's not even that. I mean, come on. I know you're going to do it. Come on.
Bro.
Midnight Mass is not held down by such earthly ideas as a ranking system, okay?
I think Midnight Mass is close to a perfect television experience. I can't think of very many competitors in that space. And the few that I can think of have duds because they're much longer. They have filler. Midnight Mass. Yeah, ill-gotten sequels. Like, you look at Midnight Mass, you're just like, this is 7 episodes of cinematic perfection that's hard to compare to anything else.
It almost makes me think that it's actually a book or something.
I don't know. I didn't research it at all.
Because
I don't know.
It's so well done. I'm like, this had a beginning and an end. I'm wondering now if it's actually it had a different form.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm giving this an S+. This is I think that since we started this podcast, this is the hardest S ranking I've ever given. I don't think that there's anything else that we've reviewed that's better than this. And if I'm being real, I don't even think there are very few things that we've reviewed that are even close to this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Made in Abyss, but I mean, yeah, this is definitely this is definitely up there.
Broadcaster Nickels, would you like a glass of lemonade? And with that, we'll close out.
Look forward to our review of Made in Abyss 3. The Bathhouse Chronicles.